Whoa, it's not a good time for the share market right now. Or it's not a good time for anyone really. But if you own shares, then you must be having your own separate internal battle on what to do or what's the best thing to do in these uncertain times. Usually in my videos, I would turn this camera around and I show you some sort of investment tutorial. But today I'm just gonna be talking to you, telling you my personal opinion, what I'm doing right now, what I've done so far, and just some other random stuff which I think is important. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone that I'm not a financial or medical expert. Things in this video is just my personal opinion intended for entertainment. So look, if you own shares, then you must be feeling what I'm feeling. Well, I shouldn't say that because everyone's situation is different. And I haven't properly calculated how much I've lost, but just roughly looking at it, so far I have lost what is equivalent to my annual salary before tax. I don't get paid that much for my work anyway, but that's still a lot of money for me. Now, what have I done? I was lucky that I sold some of my shares a few weeks ago before the big drops happened. Some of these shares are sold at a little bit of a profit and the others are sold at a loss. But majority of my portfolio, I'm still holding on to. And if you're holding on to yours as well, then I'm here for you. At times like this, with all the news and talk about recession, it's hard to hold on to your shares. So keep watching this video and I'll tell you why I'm still holding on to majority of my shares. So as I mentioned, it's painful to see your portfolio losing all that money. No one likes seeing money disappear like that. But if you would have followed the rules that I've been telling on my other videos, then this situation might be a little less painful for you, or you would be better handling this situation. Some of those rules that I've been talking about is only invest what you're comfortable with losing. Another rule is invest for a long time. Have a long-term mindset. For me, that's at least 5 years. And the other rule, which I admit I most often break, is invest in blue chip companies that has experienced and survived through a recession before. If you haven't been following those rules, that's fine. Keep watching this video because there's other things to consider at these times. But first, let's go through these rules. If you only been investing what you're comfortable with losing, then you should be fine right now. Just remember that you told yourself that you'll be fine. It could also mean that majority of your capital is somewhere else other than the stock market. Now, even though I said I lost a lot, majority of my capital is in cash right now. It always has been because I followed these rules. And my other investments are going along fine as well. I'll make a separate video on what those are later. And if you would have followed the second rule, only invest for a long term, for me it's at least 5 years, then all you had to do is just remember that rule during these times. Whenever you hear something bad on the news or anywhere, just remember that you didn't need this money at least for another 5 years or so. And it's very unlikely that a recession would last longer than 5 years. But this situation might last longer than the previous recessions. And I'll talk about that later on the video. But even with that considered, I don't think a recession would last longer than 5 years. It would start to recover within that 5 years or might even have fully recovered. We don't know. But it's unlikely that businesses are gonna stay closed for a whole another 5 years. The other rule was only invest in blue chip companies. Now there's two reasons for this. Most blue chip companies have gone through a recession and they have experience in markets like these. Second reason is that most of them pay dividends. And with the Reserve Bank cutting the official cash rate to an all-time low, you probably get more money from dividend payments rather than taking your money out from the stock market and putting it into a savings account because of the low interest rates now. It does depend on the company you're invested in though. And one thing to watch out for is that companies can cancel dividend payments for whatever reason. Auckland International Airport, Vista Group, Air New Zealand have already cancelled their dividend payments, and there's probably more companies announcing that they're gonna cancel the dividend payment by the time this video comes out. So that's something to watch out for and consider as well. Now I made a video on everything you need to know about dividend payments in New Zealand. I'll have a link to that at the end of this video, and I'll also leave a link in the description below. Going away from the stock market and into the medical side of things now, because that's what this situation is all about. Declaring this a pandemic is a good thing because that means now vaccinations can be put on a fast-track program. Otherwise, vaccinations would take a long time because it's heavily regulated and tested before it's available. Now, even though it's approved for fast-tracking, it still means that we will not have a vaccination for another 12 to 18 months. And that's because whatever vaccination they come up with, they had to prove it works in certain stages. It's still faster because it's a pandemic, but it's still going to take 12 to 18 months. And that's why I said this recession might last a little bit longer than other recessions. So what's going to happen until then? Well, it's a long time, so I don't know. And nobody knows right now. People are also assuming that when the market does turn around, it's going to start going up incredibly fast. This could be possible due to influence of social media, but due to the length of this ordeal, businesses would need time to fully recover. Some businesses might adapt in these markets and some businesses just won't be able to adapt, like tourism for example. And also a lot more people will get infected. That's just how viruses work, guys. And on that note, if you think you're infected, please call the dedicated helpline. Please don't go and infect our doctors. And I also want to point out that this is not a situation where we sit around and wait for the government and medical experts to do something. This is a situation where we can all help out by doing our bits. And just looking at the news, for some reason being considerate is very hard for some people. Also guys, this is a great time to bring this out because a lot of us are not doing this. Now anytime you go to the doctor, anytime, not this current situation, anytime you go to the doctor and the doctor gives you antibiotics and the label says take until finish, make sure you take until finish, even though you no longer feel sick. If you start taking it, take until finish as indicated by the label. Now, why am I saying this? Because what's been happening is that people stop taking medicine when they start feeling better. But just because you start feeling better doesn't mean you completely gotten rid of the infection. And the ones that do survive develops resistance to the antibiotics that we have now. And this has created superbugs, which we do not have anything to fight against. And the fatality rate is much higher than the virus that's going around right now. So if you get infected with these superbugs, you're pretty much done for. And it's all our fault for not using medication properly. The only reason why you haven't heard of these superbugs is because it's hard to get infected by them. But when you do, we don't have anything to fight against. I'm not trying to scare you, I'm just trying to inform you. And if you could go around share this information with others, then it's going to be best for all of us. One other random point that I want to make is that I'm happy that the general public is finally paying attention to where it deserves. Now, I don't know about you, but I was getting sick of these Instagram models creating fake expectations and getting paid quite well for it, while scientists are doing amazing and hard work but are struggling to get funds for their research. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking shots at Instagram models. I will never judge a person's hustle. I even have friends that make a decent amount of money from posting on Instagram. But I have always wondered, how did we come to a point where we follow and support fake things online rather than the hard-working people that makes a positive difference in our lives? I don't know, but I always hated it. And I thought that we as a society need to change our focus so that money is going to a place where great work is being done. But anyways, going back to the stock market, it's likely that things would get worse. And should you hold on to your shares? Well, I would tell you to revert back to your original plan. If you follow the rules that I've talked about, then just remember those rules. If you have your own rules, then stick to those rules. But whatever you decide on, be happy with your decision. Commit to it and don't beat yourself up afterwards. Don't get hung up on what I should have done. I would say that's not good for anyone, but really, that's not good just for yourself. So keep your head up, keep looking forward, and most importantly, keep healthy. And that's it. We'll see you on the other side.